Welcome back to the Little Girl Podcast. I'm Kyra. All right, now let's welcome Virginia to the show. Welcome in.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. So glad to have you. Well, why don't we get started by having you tell the audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
All right. I'm Virginia Lacayo. I'm from Nicaragua. And I'm currently the co-founder and CEO of Massive. That is short for Massive Systemic Change. It's a coaching and advising firm that equips conscious leaders, mostly women, and women that come from marginalized groups, to equip them with the tools and the skills and the concept and a total paradigm shift and how to bring about systemic change in their organizations or communities.
Awesome. So before we dive a little bit more into the work that you do with your business, why don't you tell us about your journey to this type of work?
Well, it's quite a story because it seems my father used to say that I didn't know what I liked, what I wanted in life, because it seems like I've changed so much in terms of careers and path and etc. But for me, actually, it's just coming into a circle, like everything is falling into place and makes total sense. I started, and I've been a feminist activist my whole life. I've been part of social movements around the world, but mostly in Latin America. I was a practitioner. I worked for a nonprofit organization back in Nicaragua many years ago. And I was always fascinated by how humans and why humans behave the way we behave and how to change it at the collective level. So that has been my drive and my obsession, I think, since I remember. So I went to law school first because I thought, okay, law school is going to teach me, the basic structure, the skeleton of society. And I learned some things there. But at the same time, I was working for this organization in Nicaragua, and we developed a communication for social change strategy that has a huge impact. I mean, it was so big. It was a multimedia, multi-meta organization that combines media. At that time was not social media, but television shows, radio shows, community engagement, workshops, and everything was very, very holistic, let's say. And the impact evaluation of that strategy was so surprising and so impressive because it was a regional strategy for the whole Central American region, that we start showing up in textbooks and universities and the UN and big organizations start calling us and saying, like, what was that about? I mean, what is the theory behind that? And imagine at that time in Nicaragua, we were just ending a war period. So we didn't have access to books or the internet or anything. So we look at each other, my colleagues and I, and we were like, theory, what was that? And because I've always been kind of a nerd, I said, like, I volunteer to go back to college and to learn, about theories and to come up with a theory that will explain this. So I did my master and then my PhD on communication for social change. And I learned a lot about, how society changed and how we change our behavior, but it was quite not enough. And while I was in college, I ran into complexity science. And I was like, I'm in love. This is the love of my life. Complexity science is a body of knowledge that comes from different disciplines that explain how complex systems work and change. And usually they refer to complex systems as the stock market or the ecosystem, the forest, the ocean, the astronomy, and, very hard science base. But when I was studying that, I came from social sciences. So all of a sudden my dissertation committee, my doctoral committee were like, what are you doing in the hard sciences? Quantum physics and stuff. And I said, this is the gap that I was looking for that really can explain and complement social theories about how humans as an ecosystem that we are, both individually and at the collective level, that this can really explain those gaps that we didn't understand from social sciences. So I work on putting them in dialogue. These two big body of sciences and disciplines, put them in dialogue to better inform social change strategies, both organizational change and social change. So I became well known for that, and I became an international consultant. I was, traveling everywhere, helping organizations to put these two things together to really create highly successful strategies for social change. But then I learned a new lesson and that's how we work, right? I mean, we create ourselves, and that's what we start growing and learning new lessons every time and saying like, oh, this is another missing ingredient.
Yes.
And this is how I improve this. And you start building like decks on your vision of what is your contribution to this work. So one thing that I learned then is like, even though the strategy that we design with organizations and foundations and governments is like amazing and could be extremely effective in paper, if we don't have the right organizational culture to implement this, because it takes a completely different understanding of humans and groups and teams and communities and society. If we don't understand differently that, and if we don't understand that we're not just the sum of the parts, but we are the sum of the part plus the interactions that we have between those parts, between those elements, then that organization will not be able to implement this correctly. So I decided to become, to add to my repertoire, organizational coaching and organizational change, organizational development. So I was working on organizational culture, and then I learned another lesson, which is if the leader of that organization or community or group doesn't change its paradigm and it doesn't develop the skills needed to lead a complex adaptive system, that is not the way we understand leadership today. We still have a paradigm of leadership that is very based, very informed by patriarchy, white supremacy, fundamentalist religion in some cases, and consumerist capitalism, like greed. And from that paradigm of leadership paradigm, we work top down, we work in have very reliant on linear thinking, where everything is about control and command. And complex systems don't work that way. So that's how I went back to school, let's say, and got my certifications. I got 3 certifications in coaching to collect the tools that I needed to build my own methodology and work with. And that's what I do now. I work with CEOs and founders and top executive directors and others that are willing and interested to use their power and their influence to really change the system from its core, not just doing like good things within the system, but actually change the whole system itself. So that's kind of the journey that led me to Massive and what I do now. So let's say that I spend my whole life coaching, leading, teaching women without power how to fight the system for their rights. Now I got to the point where I'm still doing so. I'm the president of the largest feminist fund in Latin America. So we do a lot of work there, and I have a program that is called Self-Coaching for Activists. But now I add to my mission to work with women that has power, not to fight the system for others, women's or other people's right, but to change the damn system. So that's in short, not so short. That's how I came here.
I love it because it's evolution, right? It just shows your growth in your work and what you do and who you are as a person. So I think that's really important. And that's one of the things we love to hear here on this podcast. And we love to talk to women and, women and men who have grown and just evolved in what they do.
Yes.
So So let's talk about the work that you do at Massive. And so
Mhm.
when a leader comes to you, like what does that person normally look like? The person that you may work with every day.
Well, they're social entrepreneurs, many of them. I mean, they believe in building a business that combines profit and social good, and that's
Mhm.
something that contributes to advance humanity. Most of them are at the top level of the leadership positions. They're CEOs
Mhm.
or executive directors or founders. Because and that's important. I mean, we want when we work with organizations and business, we want the leader of that organization to take it personally, to say
Right.
like, this is my
Mhm.
cause, this is my vision, this is what I want
Mhm.
to do, instead of saying like, yeah, well, the business should be doing that, but I'm not gonna get involved.
Right.
It
Yeah.
has to be. It's one thing that we don't work, that we don't help. We help them get equipped for everything they need to
Mhm.
do what we call equity-based transformation in their organization,
Mhm.
but they have to bring their calling. That's absolutely essential.
Mhm.
And they have to find and
Right.
believe and really feel their calling first.
Right. Yeah.
So what we do is we work with this kind of people. In general, we work with all kind of leaders that have some level of consciousness, that they have their calling and they want
Mhm.
to do that kind of transformation. But let's say we're biased toward, we favor women that come from
Mhm.
marginalized groups,
Mhm.
historically marginalized group. And one of the reason we do that is because this our main program is called the intersectional leader. And the
Okay.
intersectional leader is a leader that combines skills and knowledge and concept and visions and theories and approaches that come from systemic feminism, neuroscience, and complexity science. So the program is a combination, is a leadership development somehow and
Mhm.
personal development that brings all these paradigms and combine them to really understand how the system work and how they can change by start changing themselves first.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we know one of the first steps in their journey is to decolonize their mind. And that means that they really understand the different dynamics of powers that happen within that group or community.
Mhm.
And women's that come from marginalized groups, they already have experience the
Right.
effect of those different kind of power
Mhm.
dynamics, and
Mhm.
they are more uh, let's say willing and prepared to
Mhm.
identify the patterns faster
Mhm.
and to fight them.
Mhm.
So we find that this group, besides that I'm a Latina and I'm immigrant and I'm a woman, so I belong to
Mhm.
any of the groups that
Yeah.
they can identify with. But if they understand those powers of the dynamics really as they are, not just the obvious one. I'm not talking about explicit racism or classism or sexism.
Mhm.
Is more also the subtle ways of
Okay.
oppression, discrimination, exclusion that
Yeah.
happens in communities.
Mhm.
So we start by that, decolonizing your mind, which is the first part of the journey, is about really understanding how we have been socialized
Mhm.
and how we have internalized a lot of the oppression and discrimination and biases that we want to fight outside
Mhm.
in the world. We
Mhm.
start with us. We're saying like where I'm still have to overcome my own inner oppressor. Because this is what I think. I mean, I think that the system, and I'm talking like system with capital S, is consumerist capitalism and patriarchy and white supremacy is a propaganda machine that make us believe that their ideas and their values and beliefs are ours and are true. And until we realize that those ideas and values and perceptions and biases are not really ours, we just buy them in when we were
Mhm.
growing up because we didn't know better.
Right.
And we assume that we're ours and we go by life assuming that that is true
Mhm.
because in our head they seem true
Mhm.
until we challenge that. we're not going to be able to liberate ourselves from all that kind of oppression and being able to really see them when they happen in our surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first part of the journey.
Yes. Okay. So you said Virginia, there were so many good things in what you said. First of all, I definitely love the work. I love the work. I love the focus. I love the target audience, because I do agree with you, especially also being, I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday. I was just saying, you have to look at, I'm like, being a woman, but then for me, being a Black woman, like, there are just things I think, when you are leading people and you are trying to lead towards change, you have to, like you said, you have to understand, you have to be able to dig in, and you will have to be able to say, I feel that. Like, you have to be empathetic to the situations, because as you mentioned, it's not just the things that are very blatant to us. It's those microaggressive things that people say. It's the subtle things that people say, and you're like, I don't like how that felt. It's those things, and when a person can't identify, or they can't put themselves in a place to feel that, it's going to be very hard for them to lead others, and also lead others toward a change. And I
Yeah.
think I think we saw, obviously, a lot of this happening back during the pandemic in 2020, when we had a lot of social justice situations happening in the United States, and you just saw, like, all companies just all of a sudden going to, we've got to have we've got to do a panel, we've got to do this. And I just remember, because a place I used to work, like, did that, like, right after everything happened with George Floyd. And I was just like, but are we going to continue to grow from this? Like, we're having this panel, we're talking about it. You've got, they've pulled all the all the Black people, and had them sit on the panel. But then I was like, but what happens next? Because if we're not going to continue to evolve and continue to have discussions, it was pretty much like we did that. And then we did about, like, a couple more weeks worth of things. And then it was like gone.
Yeah.
And then I recall asking several times as follow-ups, like, so what happens next? Is there a group, or do you need us to, like, form a task force? Like, how do we keep the conversations going? Because it wasn't about, like, momentum of saying, like, oh, we're doing something, oh, we can put this on our website. It was about truly thinking at some one point that you had been seen, and that your struggle have been seen. The place that we occupy as humans and Black humans was going to be seen for once, but it wasn't like that. So when we have someone like you and doing the work that you're doing, and and talking to and working with leaders who want to make that change, like, I think that's so powerful.
Yes, yes. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I do believe in DEI initiatives, and I do believe that they're necessary, but I think that we're not doing it right.
Mhm.
And this is the way I can see we're not doing it right, is exactly the way you describe it. It's like putting together a program that is going
Mhm.
to teach people concepts about, like, this is what discrimination, this is what, inclusion, equity
Yeah.
means. It's like, well, people will acquire more knowledge, but that
Mhm.
doesn't change behavior. And that's the other two components of the intersectional leader program that I developed. Is like, okay, yes, you understand that,
Mhm.
you are willing to teach it and to, bring everybody into a shared vision of what it is and why we need to change it. But
Mhm.
until you change the patterns of interactions of
Mhm.
the humans, the whole elements of the system,
Mhm.
nothing really change. Knowledge is not
Yes.
enough. Awareness
Yes.
is not enough to
Mhm.
change the behavior of the whole system. It might
Right.
change maybe some of your attitudes, it might change some of your behavior, but as a system, the
Mhm.
system only will change when the patterns of interactions of the elements of that system change significantly. So we change patterns of interactions by changing agendas, by changing spaces, by changing the methodologies, by changing the way we interact and communicate with each other and collaborate with each other. And in those processes, we identify where we're not liberating everybody to really bring their full potential and their full contribution in a way that is safe and is valued and is recognized because of their difference, not in spite of their difference. So that's the second component of the intersectional leader is systemic leadership skills, which is that it's like how you lead a system in a way that frees everybody, and you really tap into the collective intelligence, creativity, and capacity of the whole system to bring about change and to solve highly complex problems like this.
Yes. I love your approach because yes, you have to, first of all, you have to have leaders that are invested, leaders that want to be better. And it's not just some initiative or program that you're checking a box on. Because if they have the check the box mentality, then everybody else in the company, and I think you said something so key where you have to change the patterns. Because I will say during this time when we were doing this program, I had some white coworkers reach out to me and go, "Oh, like I'd like to donate. I just like to do more." And it was like, "Can you tell me things? Tell me things. Tell me, Black girl. Tell me things." So I was like, "Okay." So I'm like, "Okay, well, let's talk about it." And I want you to understand like what the organizations do that I am going to be recommending to you. Not just do it because like you feel like you just need to do it. But then it wasn't long before, there was a conversation, but then of course there was never a donation. There was never a follow up. But like you mentioned, it's the patterns, right? Because the organization immediately thought, well, we did our part. We checked the box. We can say we did something. And then it was not important at the top. So it did not filter down into the organization. And also, I love that you say it's a complex problem. Like it is. It is very complex. We'll be solving it forever. We'll be figuring out how to make it better all the time because we are human. And as long as we're human beings with different personalities and different traits and different experiences, we'll always need to be having conversations with each other to figure out how we get better. How do we evolve and move forward? And I think, and like I said, so many people could benefit from from what you do. But what I do like and appreciate that it is very focused on women and also women from marginalized communities because because oftentimes we're fighting the fight. And a lot of times you just want to make sure you're doing it the right way. And you're able to instill that into your businesses or your leadership through if you're managing teams of people and that you are, providing the right framework so that people can understand and grow together.
Yes. And there is a third component of the intersectional leadership that is the mindset one, that is decolonizing your mind, but it's also to what I call develop an indomable mindset. Indomable mindset, especially for women that come from marginalized groups. And talking not just, I'm sorry, not talking just women of color and immigrant, but people that have that are neurodiverse or people that have some kind of disability or people that belong to the queer community. I mean, I'm talking all kind of people that for one reason or the other have experienced some kind of oppression or discrimination or exclusion. And it's not just saying for them, it's not just saying, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to change. I'm going to add this program. Because as you said, there are a lot of leaders that have the calling and they have the intention and they have the passion, but then they don't know what to do about it. Like, how do I go about changing the whole thing? Not just improving it. We didn't there is a quote that says that we didn't create the light bulb by improving the candles. We need to start from
Mhm.
scratch. We need to change the whole thing.
Mhm.
It's not about increasing improvement, making more programs and creating more awareness. That's not
Mhm.
enough.
Right.
So the indomable mindset, that is the third component of the leadership, intersectional leadership program, is about uh, shifting your understanding of leadership. Who you are as a leader. You as a leader are not the one that goes like, follow me. I have all the answers,
Mhm.
know everything. I'm going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
It's more about really becoming a facilitator. The role of the leader is the one that has and an indomable mindset has many traits. And I developed this concept of the indomable mindset based on the traits of history shapers in, in our human history.
Mhm.
And all the traits that they have, there's seven in total, but the two more important ones are humble confidence,
Mhm.
a critical mind. And a critical mind, I want to emphasize in this, because when we talk about critical mind, people think it's like, well, yeah, I'm skeptical of the news or what other people
Yeah.
say, or what other people do. That's the first level of critical mind.
Mhm.
Second level of a critical mind is really understanding and being skeptical of what the system is doing and how the system works, and what are the belief system that permeate that system, let's say patriarchy and white supremacy. But the third level of a critical mind, and is one that few people actually achieve, and that's part of the training, is when you become healthy skeptical of your own mind, of all the stories and kind of really
Mhm.
bullshit that your mind is feeding you
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
who you are, what is true, what is not true, and what is possible and not possible for yourself and for your group and for your
Right.
community to
Mhm.
achieve. So, achieving that level of critical mind is absolutely essential for a transformational leader.
Mhm.
And the second one is ego mastery. And the ego mastery is how you really learn how to manage your own emotions, so nobody and nothing, including the context, your past, current situation, other people, has power over you, not even your own mind. So that's how you become indomable, which is a Spanish word that loosely translates into impossible to domesticate.
Mhm.
Become indomable by really managing your ego, and that helps you to understand that your role as a leader is not the one in control of command, is the
Mhm.
one that is a facilitator, that your role is to create the right conditions for the
Mhm.
whole
Mhm.
system to use the power of their creativity and intelligence to solve complex problems that are too complex for only one person or a small group of people to solve, because it has to involve all the perspective and experiences and knowledge and wisdom of everybody to solve. And so you became more a facilitator. Your role is to remove obstacles for that kind of interactions to happen, to create the right conditions, to modify the structure so nothing get in between of the new
Mhm.
patterns of interactions that you want to promote, and to facilitate those processes instead of trying to command and control everything.
Mhm. Yes, I love that. Think that's a great great program. And I
Oh,
love how you talked through it. It was very easy and so digestible and easy to understand. So Virginia, if someone is listening or watching us right now and they're like, I wanna connect to her, I want to learn more, or I want to work with Massive, how can they do that?
they can find me on LinkedIn is the best way, Virginia Lacayo, and all look for Massive on LinkedIn, and our website is massivechange.co. And you can look for us. All the information about the intersectional leader program is there. We're doing an immersive, actually, the first immersive that is going to be so. I'm so excited about that immersive, because it's about, we're going to put together 10 to 12 women, strong women that are really looking forward to develop all the skills and the information and the concept and the change that they need to build to bring about that level of systemic change, like deep equity-based transformation in the organizations, and equip them with the basic tools and skills to start that process right away. So you can find all that information on our website or on all the social media. So I'm everywhere.
Awesome. Well, I have loved chatting with you and about this topic and just hearing about everything that you're doing. So, thank you again for the work that you do. And now we're going to transition over into three things with Virginia. I'm going to ask you three questions that helps our audience just get to know you a little bit better on personal level. So, my first question is a two-parter. It's how do you start and end the day?
Oh, I start, I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is make coffee. But then I take time every morning, no matter what, from Monday to Sunday. I start my day by reflecting on the day that I want to have. And that's one of the tools that I teach is called self-coaching. So I self-coach myself. It's like who I want to be today. Do I want to show up? What are the results that I want to achieve today? For myself and for my work and for the people around me. And I coach myself into getting those results and to feel the feelings that I need to feel that day to achieve those results and to be the kind of person that I want to be that day. And that is a sacred time. I call it, I'm my own boss because I'm the CEO of my company, but I call that time, I actually book it on my calendar and I call it the meeting with the CEO. And you know that you don't let the CEO stand up. You know, you don't stand up your CEO. It's your boss. So I have a meeting with my own boss every day. And like, how are we going to do this today? So that's the way I start my day. And takes me between 30 minutes and an hour, but it's absolutely essential to determine the rest of my day.
Yes, I love that. And then how do you end the day?
Well, kind of in a similar way. I mean, I make dinner, I spend time with my family and everything, but before going to bed, I have a me time, like a solo time to reflect on the day. And I think about more, what did I achieve? I make sure that I praise myself and I, like congratulate myself and celebrate my little wins of the day. And I review where I was not the kind of person I wanted to be. Where did I slip a little? And it's like, okay, I wish I didn't show up this way in this conversation or with this person. How can I improve myself? And it's a very compassionate self-reflection that I do at the end of the day. But it's something that sent me to bed inspired to be better the next day.
Awesome. All right. The second question, what's a goal or intention you set for yourself this year?
Oh, well, I think it will summarize it on reviewing my systems to get my whole health put together, to improve my health systems. And that I'm talking health in terms of physical health, but also mental, emotional, financial, relational health. It's like, I think I work on myself and I've been working on myself for decades. But this year in particular, because I'm also at age that a lot of things are changing for me in my body, but also in my life, I think that it's important to make a kind of stop and say, like, the system that have worked for me so far are not working the same way. So it's time to review them instead of saying like, well, they work. This is the way we've been doing it for years. So why to change anything if it's not broken? Say like, no, there's always room to say like, if this is this working for me still the same way it worked before? And there are many systems that I have. And by systems, I talk about habits and behaviors and, ways of doing things that are not working the same for me anymore. And I need to review them and upgrade them. And that applies to all my health aspects or issues or your dimensions. So that's my main goal this year. I'm really focused on achieving that.
Yes, I love that. All right. And the last question, where are you currently finding inspiration?
On the women I work. I mean, both the activists that I'm
Mhm,
talking about, let's say the bottom line, the people that are actually in the field working for women's rights and
mhm,
human's right and human right defenders. And those women have always been an inspiration for me, but also from my current clients. I mean, women that are saying, it's not enough to protest and to complain and to, point out the injustice and the things that are not right.
mhm,
It's about for me to step up and do something about it. And their passion and their calling and their vision about the world that they want to create for themselves and for their communities is extremely inspiring. I believe that we are in a time right now that, if you think that the system and a lot of people resist the the artificial intelligence and technology era and
mhm,
how it changed everything in our lives,
mhm,
wait to watch how people are going to get really agitated when we women start changing and start leading equity based transformation everywhere in
mhm.
all of organizations and communities. So I'm excited and really inspired by seeing women stepping up and saying, like, I'm gonna lead this change.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Awesome. I love that. All right. And before I let you go, Virginia, what are three things you would like the audience to take away from our conversation today?
Well, I think that three things. The first is you cannot make a change in the world if you don't start changing yourself. You have to really decolonize your own mind first and work on yourself and your mindset and your internal bias and your inner pressure before you start facing oppression outside. And so, doing any kind of work that you can, go through therapy, hire a coach, start journaling, read more, listen to this podcast and podcasts like this. I mean, anything that will make you become a better person, and especially being more self-reflecting of who you are right now and who you want to be and how to get there. That's a very first important step. The second one is that if we want to change things, it's not just about doing good things within the system. We have to really find ways to shake the system to its core and changing the patterns of interactions of the elements within the system, not just adding stuff to the system. It's not about improving, it's about radical change.
Mhm.
So that's another thing that we're very well intended, but we don't have the tools and the skills and the knowledge and the vision to actually make that kind of radical change. But it's very cost effective. I mean, it's worth it. And the third one is, I think that really practice the belief of the things that you can do. I mean, that what is really possible for you, and dream bigger than you think you can dream,
Mhm.
and start practicing the belief that we women, especially women from historically marginalized group, are going to make a huge difference in the world. And it's going to happen very soon. It's already happening. So the more we practice the belief, the
Mhm.
more real will become, the faster will become real. So I think those three ways, three ideas.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. I love that. I love all that. And I just want to say again, thank you so much, Virginia, for the work you do and for coming on today and sharing with this community.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Love
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.